Hello everyone, my name is Tushar and today I'll be covering a topic of temporary injunction. So what is the meaning of the temporary injunction? Section 37 of Specific Relief Act provides that temporary injunction is to continue a specific period of time or until the further orders of the court that may be granted at any stage, which states that the primary object of granting a temporary injunction is to maintain and prevent status quo at the time of institution of proceedings and to prevent any change in it until the final determination of the suit. In cases in which temporary preventive injunction may be granted, so under Order 39, Rule 1 of Code of Civil Procedure 1908, it states first that when any property is in dispute or is in danger, when any property is in dispute or it is being wasted, when any property is in dispute and is damaged, when any property is in dispute is alienated by any party, when any property is in dispute is wrongfully sold in execution of a decree, when defendant threatens, when defendant intends to remove, when defendant dispose of his property with a view to defrauding his creditor, when defendant threatened to dispose of the plaintiff, when the defendant otherwise causes injury to the plaintiff in relation to any property in dispute in a suit, where defendant is about to commit a breach of contract or other injury of any kind, where court is of the opinion that in the interest of justice so requires. So what are the principles of temporary injunction? The power to grant temporary injunction is in the discretion of the court, but this discretion should be exercised reasonably, judicially, and sound legal principles on the basis of them. Generally, before granting the temporary injunction, the court must be satisfied about the following conditions. Whether the plaintiff has a prima facie case, whether the balance of convenience is in favor of the plaintiff, whether the plaintiff would suffer irreparable injury if his prayer for temporary injunction is disallowed. Prima facie case. Prima facie case does not mean that the plaintiff should have a percent case in which will in all probability succeed in trial. Prima facie case means that the contentions which the plaintiff is raising require consideration in merit and are not liable to be rejected summarily, which was mentioned under case name Prakash Singh versus State of Haryana 2002 Civil LJ 771 PH. Irreparable injury. The applicant must further satisfy the court that he will suffer irreparable injury if the injunction as prayed is not granted and there is no other remedy to open to him by which he can protect himself from the consequences of apparent injury. The expression in irreparable injury means that the injury must be material one, that is, which cannot be adequately compensated by damages. Balance of convenience. The balance of convenience must be in favor of the applicant. In other words, the court must be satisfied that the compensation, mischief or inconvenience which is likely to be caused to the applicant by withholding the injunction will be greater than that which is likely to be caused to the opposite party by granting it. Equity. In the case named Harcharanjit Singh versus Diksha Thind 2008-3 Maharashtra case 587, the relief of temporary injunction is a discretionary and equitable, and so the party who suppressed the material fact from the court does not require to get any discretionary relief, much less an order of temporary injunction. So, which also stated that the principle of equity, that he who seeks equity must do equity. Discretionary relief. The point of discretionary relief was mentioned in a very famous case of Ganesh Daivajna versus Prakash 2003 Maharashtra case number 347, in which it was stated that injunction is a discretionary remedy. The court is not bound to grant such relief merely because it is lawful to do so. And it was also mentioned very clearly that the discretion of the court is not arbitrary but sound and reasonable, guided by judicial principles, which are basically the main motive of the court to make any kind of judgment on the basis of temporary injunction. And it also helps in the primary object of granting temporary injunction, which will make it which will be helpful to maintain and preserve the status and the time of institutions of the proceeding which is clearly mentioned in the definition of the same under section 37 of Specific Relief Act and was applicable under section 39 of the order 39 rule 1 of the CPC 1908. So that was my topic of temporary injunction. Thank you.